The first time that wine is mentioned in a dietary context is when Noah gets drunk, and I think that's worth noticing. It reminds us right from the start that wine is not harmless. It's something we need to approach with caution and wisdom. What really fascinates me, though, is that the first time that wine is mentioned in a ceremonial context, it's our introduction to Melchizedek. He was the head of the pre-Mosaic priesthood of the Lord. And some believe, including myself, that it was actually Shem, Noah's son. I'd love to do a deep dive on that, so if you're interested in a deep dive on Melchizedek, just let me know in the comments. I'll try to get around to it one day. Melchizedek brings out bread and wine, a moment that feels like a preview of communion, and offers it to Abraham as a holy sacrament. Then Abraham tithes to him, symbolically acknowledging that Melchizedek's priesthood was superior to the one that would later come, the Levitical priesthood. Y'all have brought up some excellent points about wine in the ancient world. It wasn't usually straight up wine. Back then, it was usually mixed with water. Water wasn't always safe to drink, and adding a little bit of wine to it could actually purify it. Wine has some mild antibacterial properties. Did you know? It wasn't just used in everyday life and in ceremony, it had medicinal purposes as well. Scripture refers to several types of the blood of grapes. New wine, which is unfermented grape juice. Quality wine, which is aged and alcoholic. Strong drink, which is likely something a bit stronger, maybe even spirits, possibly beer would fall into this category as well. And vinegar, which is what happens when wine goes too far. Each of these had different uses in the ancient world. Here's something fun you might not have heard before. There's actually a festival of new wine that seems to have been lost through the Pharisaical teachings. You count 50 days from Pentecost, which celebrates the wheat harvest and generally happens at the beginning of June. And that brings you to the festival of new wine, which happens to correlate with the harvest time of grapes in Israel. This year, it's the end of July. Then you count 50 days later from the Festival of New Wine, and you have the Festival of New Oil, which happens to coincide with the olive harvest in Israel, and it happens to fall this year at the end of September. And then there's the Feast of Tabernacles, which lines up with the fruit harvest. Israel's festivals and their calendar are beautifully tied to the agricultural seasons. And I'll include a link to the Essene calendar so you can see what I'm talking about. So back in the day, people would pour freshly squeezed grape juice into an animal hide and let it ferment. And since grapes only ripen in the summer, that would be the only time that new wine would even be available. So anytime you see new wine in the Bible, you can assume it's around summertime. Jesus even uses wineskins as a metaphor when asked why his disciples weren't fasting like the Pharisees. His answer? You can't put new wine in old wineskins. What he was bringing, the new covenant, couldn't be contained by the old religious system, and any attempts to blend the two would result in disaster, burst wineskins, and torn garments. Wine, again, as a symbol of something spiritual. And in the ultimate moment, Jesus lifts his cup at the Last Supper and says he won't drink of it until he drinks it new with us in the Father's kingdom. Did you catch that? New wine in the kingdom. Now, don't worry. I'm not about to start rapture date setting. I have no idea when it's going to go down. I'm a pre-tribber, fully grounded in scripture, and not willing to argue with anyone about it. None of us will know for sure until we're flying through the clouds, staring at each other wide-eyed. But here's a thought that's been simmering for me. If Christ drinks wine new in his kingdom with us, couldn't that make the timing for the wedding feast around summertime? That is just conjecture, I completely admit. Just wondering. The more I dig, the more it seems to me that the afterlife is going to be so much more familiar than we could possibly imagine. Scripture says wine makes the heart merry, and that's not something grape juice or vinegar can do. But God uses wine as a powerful symbol of wrath and judgment. At the end of Revelation, we see Jesus physically return to earth and tread the wicked in the winepress of his wrath. He tramples the wicked like grapes and invites the birds of prey to come and eat the princes and kings of this world. It's intense, but it's the imagery God chose. There are two end of tribulation feasts, the wedding supper of the Lamb and the great supper of God. And if you miss the first one, you do not want to be invited to the second one. Proverbs tells us that wine is a mocker, beer is a brawler, and anyone led astray by them is a fool. And the book of Esther gives us a vivid example. Unlimited wine for an entire kingdom for 7 days leads to Queen Vashti publicly defying her husband, the king, which has consequences that ripple throughout the whole kingdom, and Haman starts plotting genocide. That's the kind of foolishness that wine can stir up if we're not careful. Wine can cause people to stumble, both physically and spiritually. And like so many things in life, it requires wisdom and restraint. If your conscience tells you to avoid it, then listen. That is also wisdom. Next week, we're going to look at the question, was Jesus a vegetarian? Spoiler alert, I don't think so. And I'll prove that he ate meat in his pre-incarnate, incarnate, and post-resurrected body, and why it matters when it comes to understanding God's plan of redemption. I'm so thankful that God has packed the Bible with layers of wisdom and insight for us to seek out. Scripture says it's the glory of God to conceal a matter and the honor of kings to seek it out. And those who walk with Christ are called kings and priests. So I think it's more than okay for us to claim that honor and to try to seek out what he's hidden. I hope something I've shared here has made sense to you. Please share any of your own profound connections that I missed. There are a few, I couldn't include them all. Bring them to our attention in the comments so we can continue learning together.